You know what time it is. You know what time it is.
How firm thy friendship. Oh,
you know what time it is. I'm brawl with them boys of the fall. You know what time it is. On the ground with a nose for the ball. You know what time it is. Blood, sweat, and them tears for this game. Leaving it all out on the field with no fear for you lames. Yeah, you know what time it is. Come brawl with them boys of the fall. Covered in gray and scarlet, massive, stiff arms to your jaw. We breaking it. We sick of seeing you clowns with the crown. We taking it.
What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Buckeye Boys, where we talk about college football with real fans. I'm Devin, and we got some news to talk about. Obviously, Ohio State has been going through several coaching changes. Jim Knowles going to Penn State, offensive line coach taking off to the NFL. Same with their offensive coordinator. And plus, it's the offseason. So, with all these changes and also being the offseason, there's going to be all these rumors floating around. And I want to talk about one in particular today, and that's the one that we hear about every offseason for the past, 5 years. Larry Johnson, our defensive line coach, our legendary defensive line coach, right? Gets a lot of criticism throughout his time because of his age. People negatively recruit against him. His recruiting classes the last couple of years, people question those on whether he's bringing in the numbers he needs to bring in or whatnot. And then, of course, we all heard about him and the Jim Knowles situation, whether those two get along. Well, something came out the other day from the Big Ten huddle, and it reads exactly this. It says, after Ryan Day met with Ohio State's legendary defensive line coach, Larry Johnson's future at OSU depends on aligning with the new defense. Day offered a return contingent on that fit with Patricia now as DC. Johnson's decision is imminent. That's per On3 Alex Gleitman. So that's some interesting, information. And essentially, I think what it's coming down to is Larry Johnson, gonna be able to work well with Matt Patricia? Because, dude, we heard so many things, man. I heard that Larry Johnson and Jim Knowles didn't get along. You've heard that Ryan Day and Jim Knowles didn't get along. We all know about the Oregon game, what happened there. And, dude, Denzel Burke recently did an interview, and I think that really shed some light, some inside light on the situation. And essentially, if you go back and listen, it's on the Believe, Buckeye Believe, or a show like that. You go back and listen to that. Denzel Burke essentially said that the game plan for Oregon, the defensive game plan for Oregon, was absolute trash. He said that plays were being called that they didn't run much, just too much stuff going on, and they were trying too many new things, and the defense didn't even have time to get organized, to set up across from, who they're supposed to be defending, and it was just absolute chaotic. And then he also brought up that, a coach, Larry Johnson, stood up and called some of those things out. So, in that, you can kind of see where people are grasping onto it and saying that those two didn't get along. Well, then you also, have, when Jim Knowles left, we all heard it was because of that, essentially, but it was him and Ryan Day that couldn't see eye to eye. Ryan Day had to step in, and make some changes to the defense, and ended up working out. Now, Jim Knowles, he loves running different fronts. Larry Johnson, 4-down lineman. Why? That's what he recruits. That's who he recruits there. And Jack and JT, obviously this year, they tore it up, man. We won a national title. The defensive line this year did absolutely phenomenal. So, when you got a coach like Larry Johnson having criticism the way he did, but then you have a defensive line that performs the way they performed, especially in the playoffs, I mean, it's legendary, dude. The defensive line absolutely killed it, man. And I think that The backups this year did very well as well, and they're going to be starters this year. So, so that news came out, and that begs the question, dude: is Larry Johnson going to come back? And what this is reporting is that obviously there was a meeting, right, where they sat down and they talked about whether, Matt Patricia and essentially the entire defensive staff are going to be okay with the hiring of Matt Patricia. Now, obviously, Scoop reported that a lot of the defensive staff were very fired up about Matt Patricia, but they also reported that, they didn't talk to Larry Johnson directly to know how he felt about this hire. But it begs an interesting question on, what's Larry thinking, man? Because you also got to realize that Larry coaches with his son as well. So Larry Johnson's son is on staff. Larry Johnson gets paid $1 million a year as a defensive line coach. So what kind of coach is Larry? I think there's this vision out there that Larry Johnson is this coach that wants it his way or it's the highway. That's what gets reported a lot. That's kind of what got reported in the Jim Knowles situation, that, hey, Larry just wasn't putting up with the type of defenses that Jim Knowles was wanting to run. And then you ask yourself, well, was that the right move? Was it good, if and for Larry Johnson to stand up to Jim Knowles and make those changes and kind of bring those changes about the defense? Well, if you say that Larry Johnson was a huge player in making those defensive changes after the Oregon game, then you have to say, yes, absolutely, we want Larry Johnson to stand up and make those changes. But then you got to ask yourself, okay, well, how much cohesion are you going to want in this coaching staff? You know what I mean? You coaches have to get along. If you're going to ask your players to have a culture where you work together as a family, then the coaches need to do the same thing. But you're allowed to have disagreements, man. It's just crazy when it's the off season and all these things keep popping out. I mean, I knew they were going to. These rumors are going to pop out. That this isn't going to be the last one either. We're going to hear about players transferring and offers being made money-wise to players. But, I wanted to jump on here and hit the comment section below, man. What you guys think, dude? Do you think, this is a real thing? Do you think Larry Johnson is having trouble accepting the new hire, the new defensive coordinator hire, Matt Patricia, coming in? Do you think him and Ryan Day need to sit down and work these things out? Do you think he's coming? I think Larry Johnson's coming back. I think he's coming back. I think that this stuff might get blown a little bit out of proportion. I trust Ryan Day. I trust Larry Johnson and the decisions that he's making. And I think eventually he's going to go out on his own terms. I don't think he's going to get pushed out the door. I don't think hiring a new defensive coordinator is going to push him out the door. I just can't see that. I think Larry's been coaching football for long enough. He's a defensive line coach. He knows how things operate. I just cannot see him saying no unless the defensive coordinator does whatever I say. I'm not coming back and coaching again, because that's not the only reason Larry Johnson coaches. I think Larry Johnson truly loves the players that he recruits. He gains relationships with them. He gets to know them. There's way more to coaching than just, hey, man, I want my style of coaching to be played, or I'm going to leave. I have a hard time believing that. I have a hard time thinking that that's the situation that you're going into. Now, those conversations do need to happen. You know what I'm saying? They just do. Matt Patricia and Larry Johnson and the rest of our defensive coaching staff do need to sit down and figure out, what's this system that we're going to run? What type of defense are we going to run? And it also is healthy when you have coaches or other leaders around you that are going to challenge you, that are going to ask, hey, man, are you sure this is the right thing to do? hey man, are you sure we should switch to 3 down linemen when we have the defensive linemen that we have and we recruit the way that we recruit? Are you sure we should do that? You got to have somebody in the room to do that. And if it's true that Larry Johnson stood up to Jim Knowles, then I'm not going to lie to you, man. I like coaches like that. I want them sticking around. Now, if you're going to cause a big scene about it and cause an issue on the team, which, I mean, if you ask me, we won a national title. So that did not happen. You know what I mean? They kept it in-house. They handled it the way that they needed to handle it. And the other thing about all this, is the transition that Ryan Day has made, right? He's no longer calling the offensive plays. He wants to take more of a CEO role. Why? Because he has to. Because that's the way college football is anymore, with the transfer portal, with NIL, with the way coaching staff just revolves every single year, man. That's kind of one of the downfalls about if you're going to be a really good football team and you're going to go win national titles, watch out, man. Because you're going to give your coaching staff that just got you that national title, we see it right now. They're going to have better offers. And as a CEO, right, Ryan Day, you're not going to try to hold back one of your assistant coaches for going and getting a better offer or taking a better job. He's always stated in his interview that he wants that to happen. He wants better opportunities to come up for his coaches that are coaching beside him. So, I mean, that's the question, man. Are we going to have to go look for another defensive line coach? But if you look at the moves that Ryan Day has made as a CEO, the moves that he made this year, the hiring to Chip Kelly, the moves that he made in season with changing the defense up and having that player-led meeting, right, where he was in there taking heat, making the changes that he made for the playoffs, the decisions that he made for the playoffs, the way that he develops this culture, you're seeing Ryan Day develop more as a CEO type of coach every single season, and I absolutely love it. I love the hires that were made. You got to have that continuity in the staff, and I think that's about the only question that's being raised on the staff as far as staff for Ohio State right now is because, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen any reports out there, that Larry Johnson and his decision on coming back. I would assume that he is coming back. I don't think this is going to stop him from coming back. He's been at Ohio State forever. He's got a really good group of guys coming back. He worked through it with Jim Knowles. I'm not one of those guys that think that him and Jim Knowles didn't get along. I think they didn't see eye to eye, but I think they figured it out and they worked it out together. I think Jim Knowles left because of certain things that Ryan Day did. I don't think Jim Knowles really liked the way Ryan Day did a couple things. I don't think it had anything to do with Larry Johnson. And I think the new hire of Matt Patricia is a great hire. And I trust whatever process is that Ryan Day and Larry Johnson are going to have. I don't see Larry Johnson coming in and having all these things that have to happen. Ryan Day is a smart head coach. He knows the type of players that we're recruiting. He knows the type of defense we want to run. He knows this is Ohio State, man. We have the defensive tackles and the defensive ends to play 4-down linemen. But we also want to diversify our defense because the way the game is changing, you want to be able to throw, depending on your personnel and depending on the team that you're playing, you want to be able to use the strengths of the personnel that you have. So I think that's where it's at. I mean, if you're a defensive coach in college football, you're going to have that mindset. At least I'm thinking you're going to have that mindset. So therefore, if there's a package out there where you can put a CJ Hicks and a Curry and a Logan George all out there with 3-down linemen to get more pressure on the quarterback or whatever it is that you want to do, then I would assume Larry Johnson's going to be cool with that. The dude's been around football for a long time. So, I just don't see Larry Johnson making a big stink and having this list of check marks that needs to be made in order for him to stick around. Now, I mean, the dude has been coaching for a long time. So if he doesn't come back or doesn't want to come back, I mean, it's just like, okay, Larry, we appreciate everything you've done. Like, you're 70-some years old. You've done a lot of good things. It's okay for him to retire. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all right for the dude to go enjoy his family, enjoy his life. But in the same sense, I think he just loves doing this. His son is on the staff. He's getting paid $1 million a year. He loves the players. He's recruited them here. He's still out recruiting. So, you know, I personally don't see Larry Johnson letting the hire of Matt Patricia get in the way of his future here at Ohio State and kind of push him out the door. I see Larry Johnson kind of leaving on his own terms and deciding, hey, man, I've been doing this a long time. It's time for me to relax a little bit, enjoy the family, and enjoy the rest of my life. So it's very intriguing to see, man. You know, I would put my money on the fact that the decision's already been made. Larry Johnson's coming back. That's known. I haven't seen it reported anywhere. I'm not sure it needs to be reported anywhere. I should have done research on his contract, on, when his contract's going to be up. I didn't. I apologize for that. But I don't know if he got an extension last year or when he's up for that. But my guess is Larry Johnson's coming back. No inside intel here on that or anything. I just think that, us as Ohio State fans and the media, those things are true, right? There has to be meetings between Larry Johnson and the new defensive coordinator. But there has to be meetings between Matt Patricia and Tim Walton, Matt Patricia and Matt G, and Matt Patricia and James Laurinaitis. They're the defensive staff. They're going to have those meetings. They're going to align in some places, and they're not going to align in other places. Some people would argue that's going to bring a very good defensive staff, right? You're going to have a heck of a defense when you got so many different ideas, so many different football minds all together in the same room, and not everybody completely agrees on everything, but they work through those issues. So I'm excited for the future of Ohio State football. I'm excited for the defensive future, the offensive future, and to watch Ryan Day operate as a CEO. And we'll see, man. We'll see if we get some official news on Larry Johnson coming back. I think he's coming back. There's a lot of takes going on out there about how, Larry's a get off my front lawn type of coach. And if you don't agree with what he's saying, then he ain't going to have it. I'm not there. I think Larry Johnson's been coaching way too long. He knows the reality of defense in today's college football. And you got to be progressive. You got to be willing to play to the strengths of the players that you have on the field. And also with whoever you're playing. You got to be able to make those changes, man. If a 4-down front isn't working, you got to make those changes, man. So I don't think that's happening. Ryan Day has stated in an interview previous in the year that that's how we recruit. Jim Knowles had to run 3-down linemen to Oklahoma State because they didn't have the players. Boom, he came to Ohio State. He had the players. Therefore, it's best to use a four-down front. So those are the type of decisions that I trust Ryan Day to make. Ryan Day is going to know whether Larry Johnson and Matt Patricia can see eye to eye and whether they'll be able to work through those things. I fully expect them to be able to. I fully expect Larry Johnson is not quite as aggressive with his opinions as some of us might think. Now, I do think that he will stand up and voice his opinion, but I don't see Larry Johnson being the type of coach, if he doesn't get his way, he's going to throw a tantrum and cause a bunch of problems on the coaching staff or in between the players. So we'll keep you updated and let you know if we hear anything else. But, I'm excited for the defensive staff change that got made this offseason, bringing in Matt Patricia. I think Ryan Day being the CEO, he'll be able to keep his eye on it a little bit like he did last year and step in just in case there are any issues, just like he did at the end of the Oregon game. He had to step in. So ultimately, whatever happens, I trust Ryan Day. I expect Larry Johnson to return on the Ohio State football staff next year as the defensive line coach. And then we'll wait till next year to hear again on a different reason why he's leaving. But that's college football these days, man. Appreciate you guys joining us. Please don't forget to hit the like button. Comment below, man. Share on your Twitter, your X feed, everything else. We appreciate you. On that note, go Buckeyes. OH.